All right, Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, first and foremost, we like to give all the praises, honor, and glory unto the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'ashem,
Hashem,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahushai,
Ba'ashem,
Hashem,
Ruach Kadash.
Rakakadash.
All right, double honors and respect to our apostles and elders, a great millstone, who rule well and taught us this truth. I would also like to say peace and salutations to the Lord's elect, the hopeful elect, and the one third, and you Israelite foreigners, you speckled birds that are scattered among the heathen that look like the heathen, but your seed line / sperm line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who who the promises, blessings, and the election and the adoption is only meant for. All right, this is about the Salah.
Brother Brock.
Yeah, what's up?
All right. All right, all right, and for today's lesson, right, um, we're well, through the spirit, we might be jumping a little bit all over the place, but the main topic, that I wanted to focus on is is basically right. The economic downfall of Esau Edom, right? Through his unjust policies and rulership, right? Right, what like this is like how can I say it, man? E, like um I originally when I wanted to start this lesson, I wanted to focus on this video, but we're gonna be adding stuff, from these other videos, but mainly, right, I wanted to focus on, the economic decline of Babylon the Great, right, America, and why to the average person, why is it like, why is Babylon falling? People are starting to wake up now, to why Babylon's, falling, right? Examples like, overspending, being on the military, Babylon the Great, not like, not industrializing anymore, or not innovating, right? They're more of a consumer based economy, and and the reason why their consumer based economy is to maintain their status quo of being the world's reserve currency. But what that does is that devalues and deflates the dollar and causes inflation in their economy, right? No, their money not being backed up by anything, and eventually, that will that will lead to Babylon defaulting on their debt, which is what the elites intend to, to roll out their MOTB, right? They basically planned this out, from the very beginning. So before I play these videos, we're gonna open up with a precept. We can read the copyright disclaimer, and we're gonna play this video. I might bring out a few scriptures every now and then. And all right, all right. So this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach, chapter 10, starting at verse 8, and it says here, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is transferred from one people to another, right? Right, that, and how did Esau, get, get to where he is today, man? He didn't do it by himself, man. The Lord ordained it, man. Man, he got through, to the blessing of the sword through his father Isaac, man. And we know Isaac is one of the incarnations of Yahweh Shai. The Lord ordained him, in these last days, to be in rulership, to show what a wicked rulership, looks like, right? Because as you read, in the next verse, it says here, wise earth and ashes, proud. There is not more wicked thing than a covetous man, for such and one selleth his soul to sale, because while he liveth he cast away his bowels, meaning he casts off all pity emotions, and even certain logic away, to justify him, going in, raping, robbing, pillaging, other people's wealth, oppressing people, just forcing them, to pay taxes, to the ruling class, while the rest gets to nothing or crumbs, right? All right, so before before we play the video, we get the copyright disclaimer. But let's get this this next precept by Brother Yalsop. It says here, 2 Timothy chapter 3, starting at verse 1, NIV. But mark this: there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, having a form of godliness, but denying its power, right? And basically, what it's saying is the reason why we're seeing all this wickedness is because the ruler is wicked, man. And and the people basically reflect how how this ruler act, right? Right, so they might present themselves, be as this country was originally built, speaking of Babylon, this country might say, is built on, quote unquote Christian doctrines or Christian beliefs from the Bible, but their actions are far from it, right? And we know why it is, man, is because the man ruling, is a doggone child, man. With the blessing of the sword to conquer, right? And that and that that's also proven in the book of Revelation, where it states, the pale horse. Let me get that. Revelation 6 verse 8. All right, and verse Revelation chapter 6 verse 7. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard a voice of of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, and that's talking about here in Babylon the Great, North America, to kill with sword and hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. Right, and that's how we know it's talking about Esau, Edom, man. And because the Lord, bless him with with the sword, to conquer, he Esau, Esau, reason why Esau was put into power, was because was because Jake, man, Israel's disobedience to the Heavenly Father, right, right, so. Right, but now we're approaching a time, and where we're seeing the end of Esau's rulership. Because of this, this word, this gospel, coming forth. And as we get closer to to the end of this man's rulership, right? Right, the more the more violent, the more draconian policies, the more violent acts, Esau's going to push out, and the more, and the more bloodshed, that this man's going to commit, right? So again, before we play this video, we're gonna get the we're gonna get the copyright disclaimer. All right, so disclaimer, copyright disclaimer to Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All right, so with that out of the way, we're gonna play the first video. Let's set the speed to 1.5.
There's a pattern that has destroyed every major empire in history. Not conquest, not invasion, not revolution. Economic collapse. Specifically, currency collapse. And it happens the exact same way every single time. Rome, the empire that ruled the known world for 5 centuries, collapsed when its currency became worthless. Spain, which controlled more gold and silver than any nation in history, went bankrupt repeatedly until its empire dissolved. Britain, which dominated global trade for 200 years, lost its empire within a decade after its currency collapsed. 4 times in recorded history, a dominant empire has followed this exact pattern. Military overextension, unsustainable spending, currency debasement or money printing, inflation, loss of confidence, collapse. And every time, the people in power believed they were different, that their empire was special, that the old rules didn't apply to them. They were wrong. Every single time. And right now, in 2025, the United States is following that exact same pattern. Step by step. Warning sign by warning sign. The only question is whether we're near the beginning, the middle, or the end. This is the story of how empires destroy themselves through their own currency. How it happened to Rome, Spain, and Britain. And why every warning sign says it's happening again. Let's start with Rome. The empire that dominated Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East for over 500 years. At its peak, Rome controlled 60 million people across 3 continents. Its military was unmatched. Its infrastructure was the most advanced on Earth. Its currency, the denarius, was trusted everywhere, from Britain to Egypt. The denarius was a silver coin introduced in 211 BC. It contained about 4.5 grams of pure silver. For centuries, it held its value because the Roman government maintained its purity. When you received a denarius, you knew exactly what you were getting. Pure silver, real value. This created trust. And trust allowed Rome to fund its expansion, pay its soldiers, and build its infrastructure. But empires are expensive. Every generation, Rome's borders expanded. Every expansion required more soldiers, more forts, more roads, more administration. And eventually, more money than Rome actually had. So they did what every empire does when it spends more than it earns. They debased the currency. Emperor Nero, ruling from 54 to 68 AD, was the first to significantly reduce the silver content of the denarius. He needed to fund his lavish lifestyle and expensive military campaigns, so he ordered the mints to reduce the silver content from 100% to 90%. That extra 10%, pure profit for the emperor. He could mint 11 coins with the silver that used to make 10, more coins in circulation. Same amount of silver, that's inflation. But 90% silver was still substantial. The real destruction came later. By the time Emperor Caracalla ruled in 211 AD, the denarius was down to 50% silver, half real value, half base metal. By 265 AD, under Emperor Gallienus, it had fallen to just 5% silver. A coin that was once pure silver was now 95% worthless metal with a thin silver coating. Think about what that means. If you were a Roman soldier in 265 AD receiving your pay, denarii, you were being paid in coins worth 1/20th of what soldiers earned 2 centuries earlier. The government told you nothing had changed. The coin still said denarius. They still had the emperor's face, but the purchasing power had collapsed. Prices exploded. What cost 1 denarius in 200 AD cost 50 denarii by 300 AD. Farmers stopped selling food for coins and demanded barter instead. Soldiers refused to fight unless paid in gold or goods. Tax collectors couldn't collect taxes because the currency was worthless. The entire economic system seized up. And here's the key. This wasn't caused by foreign invasion. Rome's borders were still defended. This wasn't caused by plague or natural disaster. This was self-inflicted. The Roman government destroyed its own currency to fund spending it couldn't afford. And when the currency died, the empire died with it. By 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire officially collapsed. Not because Germanic tribes were stronger, but because Rome couldn't pay its armies anymore, couldn't fund its administration, couldn't maintain its infrastructure. The currency had been debased into irrelevance, and everything built on that currency collapsed. The pattern: military expansion, unsustainable spending, currency debasement, inflation, loss of economic function, collapse. Rome proved the pattern, and every empire since has repeated it. Now let's jump forward 12 centuries. Spain, 1500s. The Spanish Empire is just beginning its golden age. Christopher Columbus has opened the New World. Hernan Cortez has conquered the Aztecs. Francisco Pizarro has conquered the Incas. And Spain now controls the richest territories on Earth. In 1545, Spanish explorers discovered the Cerro Rico mountain in Potosi, in what is now Bolivia. This isn't just a silver mine, it's the largest silver deposit ever discovered. For the next century, Potosi will produce nearly half of the world's silver, millions of pounds of it. Ships loaded with silver cross the Atlantic, filling Spanish coffers with wealth beyond imagination. Spain mints this silver into coins. The Spanish dollar becomes the first true global currency. It's used from Europe to Asia. It's trusted, it's pure, and there's an endless supply of it. Spain becomes the richest, most powerful empire on Earth. At its peak, the Spanish Empire controls territories on every inhabited continent. The sun never sets on Spanish holdings. And then, exactly like Rome, they destroy themselves. Because there's a paradox with money. More money doesn't make you richer if everyone has more money. When Spain floods Europe with silver, prices rise. What cost 1 silver coin in 1500 costs 10 coins by 1600. The silver hasn't become less pure. There's just vastly more of it. That's inflation. Spain is importing so much silver that it's destroying the value of silver itself. And worse, Spain isn't producing anything. They're not building industries. They're not innovating. They're just extracting wealth from the colonies and spending it on wars, palaces, and luxury goods imported from other countries. The silver flows in from the Americas and flows right back out to France, England, and the Netherlands. To pay for goods, Spain doesn't produce itself. By the late 1500s, Spain's kings are drowning in debt. King Philip II, ruling from 1556 to 1598, inherits massive debt from his father, Charles I, 36 million ducats in debt. And rather than cut spending, Philip borrows more. He fights wars on multiple fronts against the Ottoman Empire, against Protestant rebels in the Netherlands, against England, and when the debt becomes unpayable, he defaults. In 1557, Philip II declares bankruptcy and suspends all debt payments. This is the first sovereign default in modern history, but it's not the last. Spain defaults again in 1560, again in 1575, again in 1596, 4 defaults in 40 years. Despite controlling half the world's silver production, Spain can't pay its debts. Each default destroys trust. Lenders refuse to lend to Spain. Interest rates on Spanish debt skyrocket. And the government responds by debasing the currency. They start minting coins with less silver. They introduce copper coins that are supposed to be worth as much as silver coins. Nobody believes it. The currency loses credibility. By the 1600s, Spain is in terminal decline. The military can't be funded. The colonies begin to break away, and when the 30 Years' War ends in 1648, Spain signs the Peace of Westphalia, which marks the beginning of the end. By 1700, the Spanish Empire is essentially over. The country that once controlled the world's wealth had spent and borrowed itself into irrelevance. The pattern again: massive wealth influx, government overspending, excessive borrowing, currency inflation, repeated defaults, loss of confidence, collapse. Spain proved that even endless resources can't save an empire from fiscal mismanagement. Now we come to
All right, so I'm gonna pause there before the video continue, right? So let's so let's take it back a little bit. He said,
even endless resources can't save an empire from fiscal mismanagement.
so endless resources, right? It couldn't save the Spanish Empire from fiscal mismanagement, right? Right, so basically, right, you could have all the wealth in the world, right, but basically, if you mismanage that wealth, right, well, guess what? That wealth's gonna become is gonna basically become worthless, right? Is because like you said, man, like you might be importing, a lot of that silver into these countries, but what that's basically gonna do, right, is that's gonna cause inflation because everyone has that same amount of silver or wealth, so therefore so therefore it basically devalues that silver because it's not really rare anymore. Everyone has it.
And can I bring something out?
Yeah, go ahead, Ak.
Yeah, so there's gonna be a lot of famines because of that, and the scriptures talk about the price of wheat, a penny, which penny translates to a salary, right? So there's gonna be a lot of famines and stuff because the dollar is gonna be useless. This is the book of, let's see, okay, let's see. Let's get Proverbs 21:1. So it says, "The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will." So these people in the government, man, you know, they're basically manipulating the dollar in such a way where, you know, they want it to fall, they want it to crash. So so they can bring out that digital currency. But at the end of the day, it's all ordained by the Lord. It's, repeat it again. It's just the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. So
Yeah,
these people, th-
that's right,
this is
Ak.
all part of prophecy.
Yeah, that's right, Ak. And Slocky, I didn't mean to cut you off at the
No, you're
point there.
good. Keep going.
But what I was gonna say, right? What's gonna happen, right? These leaders, right? And of course, Yawabashi Mouse, right? He put in their minds to do this. They think that okay, so for us for our empire to continue, right? Because we're overspending on on our military, and because we keep printing more money, to these people, right, and we're barely producing anything, right, and instead of fixing that issue, right, instead of producing stuff, like good services for the people, right, make their lot, their living conditions, better, right. Well, what does this devil resort to? He's gonna mock everyone. He's gonna blame everyone. Like what he's doing now. He's mocking and blaming people. That they're on welfare or they're on food stamps or whatever, saying that you're having too many kids. You're not doing anything. Well, instead of like creating productive jobs, that'll better forward the society. And for his people, this greedy motherfucker, man, he thinks that in order for my empire to collapse, I'm just gonna get rid of the old currency system and implement this new one. And micro see everyone, so I can track and monitor them like like a god, and for my empire to keep continuing, I'm just gonna control their population, right, right? So this fucking devil, right? He plans to to mass murder, right? To genocide, right? A lot of people, in order to maintain his his fucking empire. No, right. Right. He's basically establishing a modern day Tower of Babel. Through the through this microseep, right? That charagma, which we know in Revelation chapter 13, 60 on down. We know it's gonna be what the MOTB, man, the mark of the beast. Which is what his ultimate goal is, man. Is he basically wants to keep you know, he basically wants to keep his that carnal temporal blessing on this side forever through artificial means, man. And that's by this way this Michael see it, man. But but Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, man, he's basically gonna put a stop to that, right. So I'm gonna get a few precepts to substantiate at this point. Let's see here. Well, let's read. All right, we're gonna get the book of Job. Let's get this in. Let's get this in the NLT. Right. All right. So book of Job. Let's start at. Let's see. This is what I want to get. Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. We can get this out. All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 14, verse 5. It says here, "He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be? Will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and and this is a recompense of his wickedness. And if he doeth good, he doeth unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness." Right. So, right. So So basically, right. For a time, right. Esau. He provides. This. Government assistance, right? Like those food stamps. Health care. Section 8, man, for housing. And we know that he's making Jake the face of it, right? Consuming all these these government aids, but it's also mainly these Edomites, right? Majority of the people that consume this government assistance are these Edomites, man. East. Esau basically, he did that for a time, right? So we can make Jake stay dependent on to him, right? Which we know it goes back to the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 15, man. Or Saki Deuteronomy 28:15 on down. Where he shall lend to thee, but you will not lend to him. And Esau basically did that to to make Jake pretty much dependent on Esau, man. So once he collapses the system, man, it's gonna make it easier for him, to micro see up a lot of these jakes, man. Because they become so dependent and so reliant on these on the system, basically basically what what we're about to see soon. Right, so instead of yeah, instead of providing Jake or his people rather, the how can I say this, the proper assistance that that Jake needs, allow them, to like what own land, allow them, grow trees, have a garden, so they can provide food for themselves. Well, what does this devil do, man? He hogs up all the resources. He says that, oh, yeah, you have to go to our grocery store, buy our food. If you want to own a car or something, you gotta pay insurance on it. You gotta pay fucking taxes on, every single thing. Your home, the land you live on, the water you drink, and all this stuff, man. Like water and food. That stuff should be free, man. But but this motherfucker's so greedy, man. He'll try to milk it. He'll milk. He'll basically try to milk every single last penny, so to say, or dollar that you have, man. And which basically puts hell on these people, man. Which is what these Edomites are feeling right now, man. Is because these people can't afford to pay anything. Is because Esau's is starting to raise up the prices, and he's doing that by design, so he can eventually crash the economy. So to enact, to eventually roll out with this MOTV, man. That's how this devil works, man. That's how he operates. To order up chaos. Problem, reaction, solution.
And if I may say something, Ak, this fucking devil, man, he wants to starve you people out. He wants to starve you people out, and then when he does make it seem like he's gonna do something, he's gonna make you take that chip in order to get benefits, and those so-called benefits are gonna be ramen noodles, shitty fucking bread, and lab grown meat.
Or worse, man. He can force you to eat bugs, man, because this damn devil, he does not want you to get close to your power, because because these wicked elites know that if when we get close to our power, man, that's basically spells that the downfall for the kingdom, right? That's why, man, this devil. Well, he's still kind of hesitant, to roll out with this MOTV, because the wicked elite of their elite, they know that once they roll out with this MOTV, it's pretty much over for their kingdom, right? Because in the next video, right, they basically have nothing to counteract these other nations' missile technology once once they start firing, man. Yeah, so Babylon the Great, man, it doesn't have much time, until this kingdom falls, right? So, so, I'm gonna let this video play, and then I'm gonna get a few more precepts, and then I'm gonna play something from this video.
Management. Now we come to Britain, the empire that lasted longer, stretched further, and controlled more wealth than Rome or Spain combined. At its peak in 1922, the British Empire governed 458 million people, 1/4 of the world's population, 1/4 of the world's land. The sun never set on the British Empire, not because they controlled every time zone, but because they controlled so much territory that it was always daytime somewhere under British rule. And the British pound sterling was the foundation of it all. For over 2 centuries, the pound was the world's reserve currency. Over 60% of global trade was invoiced in pounds. The gold standard anchored everything. 1 pound sterling could be exchanged for a fixed amount of gold. This created trust, stability, and power. But empires are built on credit, and credit has to be repaid. Britain funded its empire through borrowing, government bonds, debt to finance wars, colonies, infrastructure, administration. As long as the pound held its value, this worked. But then came World War I. In 1914, Britain's national debt was $650 million. By 1919, after 4 years of total war, it had exploded to over $7 billion. That's a tenfold increase in 5 years. To fund the war, Britain had borrowed from everyone, from its own citizens, from the United States, from anyone who would lend. But the war also forced Britain off the gold standard. In 1914, when war broke out, the government suspended gold convertibility. They had to print money to fund the war effort, and they couldn't maintain gold backing while doing it. The pound became a fiat currency, backed by nothing but the government's promise. After the war, Britain tried to return to gold. In 1925, Winston Churchill, then Chancellor of the Exchequer, put Britain back on the gold standard at the pre-war exchange rate. This was a catastrophic mistake. The pound was overvalued. British exports became uncompetitive. Unemployment soared, and the government had to maintain high interest rates to defend the currency, which crushed economic growth. By 1931, Britain was forced off gold again, permanently this time. The pound was devalued, and trust in British currency began to erode. But the real destruction came after World War II. Britain entered World War II already deeply in debt. The war cost everything. By 1945, Britain's national debt had reached 270% of GDP. The empire had bankrupted itself to win the war. Entire cities were in ruins. The economy was shattered. And Britain owed massive debts to the United States. In 1944, while the war was still raging, the Bretton Woods Conference redesigned the global financial system. The British pound was officially replaced as the world's primary reserve currency. The US dollar took its place. Britain fought desperately to preserve the pound's status, but it was over. They had the debt,
Hey,
but not the gold or the economy, to back their currency.
So go ahead, Doc.
and I got a precept regarding what it just said. If it's related to what the guy sent in the video, if you want me to bring it out.
Yeah, go ahead. What was it that? What is it, Doc?
So this is Revelation 11:14. It says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." So the prophets that we're seeing because the scriptures talk about it's written for the future as well. It talks about the future, right?
Yeah.
So in Second World War, the currency was they had to use a different currency, except stuff's gonna repeat itself, but they're gonna switch to that digital currency. After that it's gonna be you know chaos.
Yeah, that's right, man. After they roll out with that MOTV, to try to preserve whatever's left of their blessing, and this goes to show you, man, that this damn devil Esau, he's not fit to rule, man. The fact that he keeps overspending, and keeps borrowing these debts, or it's like, or these loans, in order to to fund his military conquest, man. It goes to show you, man, that the Howell Bashi Mao Shai, man, he made, like, he basically established these kingdoms to ultimately fail, right? Because of what's happening right now. It's basically showing you, why these empires are falling, right? And you're probably wondering, doesn't this man learn from his mistakes? But what, why isn't it? Why isn't he, making certain improvements, so his empire can last longer? But that's the thing, the Yawabashi mess, like, he didn't set up that way, for these devils to act righteously, man. Remember, man, these motherfuckers are, are covetous, man, and and greedy. So these motherfuckers, they're just gonna keep trying to take and take and take, man. Until there's nothing left, and that's gonna ultimately destroy him, man. As you just saw in the video, you can hoard all the wealth you want, like you can hoard all the wealth and resources to yourself. You could have basically, the best military, man, but that's, but that's not going to help you if you don't know how to manage that wealth ultimately, man. And and take care of your troops and people. And people in general, because what makes up an empire, their people, right? And if your people are suffering, man, then your empire is gonna eventually collapse. And that's how we know, Esau's kingdom, man. As the scripture says, as the scripture says, Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob's the beginning, of it. That's how we know. That's how we know Esau. Uh, he's just an unfit and shitty ruler, man. Because of his fucking greed, man. Let's get the next precept. Shalom, brother Sarah. We're doing a lesson right now. All right, let's get here. All right.
Oh,
Shalom. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, or book of Sirach, chapter 10, verse 3. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them that are in authority, the city shall be inhabited, right? And why does it say it like that? Is is because, man, for for you to have a successful kingdom, man, to to see to see how how that kingdom is prospering, right? Is to see the condition of their people, right? Right. What let me ask, I'm gonna say this. Why did people want to initially move to America in the first place? Is because these other nations, right? They saw that America was prosperous. That people were having their family, that quote unquote American dream or whatever. You know. Because people thought like, oh, they could have money, they could have a house, they could have a car, they could have a wife and kids, man, right, and some pets, and their kids can go to school and they can get good jobs, and repeat the same process or whatever, right? It looked good, it looked prosperous, right? But until you found out, man, when you got to America, it's not what it seems, right? It's because these people, right? They have to keep constantly owing money to the government. They don't really own anything, and they can't really grow anything unless they own vast amounts of land, which only the elite of the elite could do, man. It's because America is really ruled by yeah, by these wicked elite bankers and families, right? Which own up majority of the land, and these people, man, that they're on the land, they're just serfs, man. They don't own anything, you know. They're laborers, and that's why the scripture says. I'm gonna get it right now. Every hand of the All right, this is why it says in the book of Job, chapter 20, verse 22, it says here, in the fullness of his sufficiency he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him, right? Right. So basically, right, when this devil, is about to implement his MOTB, when he's about to implement that micro CM, right? Right, then that's when the people, man, they're gonna rebel. They're gonna, they, they're gonna, they're gonna, they're gonna turn upon, they're gonna turn upon their rulers, man. And basically these, they're gonna drag certain of their people or presidents on the streets, and just start beating the shit out of them. Right. Right. So basically, right. Let's see what was I saying? What? Right. Right. So, right. Right. Oh man. And no. So I was saying that people can't they don't own anything, right? These wicked elites, man. They basically own everything, right? So yeah, so basically, man, when the economy fails, man, when Esau starts to crash everything, because because basically his currency, or his money system, basically can't support the economy, right? So right, you'll see things like hyperinflation. People can't afford goods and services anymore. Right, and then what do people do? They resort to what? Robbing, pillaging each other, taking their resources, man. And and eventually, they're gonna turn on the rulers. Is because they ruled, they basically ruled without wisdom. Right, that's you're right. And that's gonna eventually lead to sedition, sedition among men. All right, Second Ezra chapter 15, verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading of one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their action shall stand their power. Right, right, and that takes me to another precept. For the lack of bread. I was a little bit further down. A man. All right, so let's jump down to verse 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their house with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and great tribulation, right? Right, and it's gonna and as you see, man, it's gonna get so bad out here because because people can't even afford afford to buy food anymore because because the prices are starting to skyrocket. As the brother Barack pointed out, man. A day's wages is going to cost a penny, and that penny goes back to the word denarion, which is equivalent to a Roman silver coin, which is a day's wage. It, so yeah, so yeah, so, you know, so yeah, so yeah, so pretty much, man. Um, uh, the yeah, so so pretty much, you, these people, man, they're going to crash out because because they don't have the money, to purchase the food they need, man. Rather than allowing people, man, to use their property, to plant their own food, or have big enough land to have animals where they could, like, provide for themselves, man. Esau, man, he'll force these people, to become reliant to him, right? And then, man, he's gonna use his order ab Chilion as an excuse to say, like, oh well, these people are lazy. They can't provide for themselves. We're always gonna provide for them. When he knows damn well he set that system. He set that system up, to ultimately kill them, man. Because Esau is that sword, man. And
And
yes, yes. So, go ahead, Doc.
and I don't know if you want to. I wanted to bring out a screenshot.
Go ahead. Let me know when you have it out. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
man, and that's why, man, the Lord Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, he's basically he's going to destroy Esau, man, for that perpetual hatred he has Jake, man, is because he basically, the way Esau set up his society, right, was to make Jake suffer, and put their people on top. Well, while he basically hoards all the wealth for himself. But by him doing that, man, that's basically is gonna cause his empire to implode on itself, man. Because eventually, this, the depth, the food prices rising. That's that's and the constant printing of the money, that's gonna catch up with these people, man. And just like the previous Edomite rulerships, or within his empire, Rome, and of course you had the revival of the Roman Empire, which consists of the Spanish Empire, the British Empire, now now the the Babylon, the daughter of Babylon Empire, aka America. It's basically following the same pattern, right? It's Let's see. Actually, national security is what the brother Barack posted. It says here, National Security Watch, hordes of EBT funded zombies pledged to rob America starting November 1st, when SNAP benefits end because of the Democratic Party orchestrated government shutdown. Right, and and we know, what's it called, and they'll say they'll throw out names like Democrat or Republic. It doesn't matter. They work for the same entity, man. Two,
Yeah.
as the elder Malcolm says, two wings of the same hateful bird, man.
Yeah. It's just that illusion of choosing your master. You know.
yeah. It goes back into Revelation 13. Two horns like a lamb, but spake as a dragon, and now he's getting ready to speak it. To speak as a dragon. Bring that draconian law. Is because right now is again he's using that order ab kill. The serpent's cut is cutting is cutting funding to Eve, man.
And
Wanting them to
another
crash out. Oh, go ahead, Saki. Go ahead.
the, the other screenshot from GMS Steerman. I don't know if you want to read that. It says narrative loading racial wars. So we got racial wars happening right now, or potentially too. It says Mike Davis. We should only help people who can help themselves. It's outrageous. 40 million people get food stamps. Get off your fat ghetto asses. Get a job. Stop reproducing. Change your shitty culture. Stop giving the food stamps to immigrants. It says we don't want you here if you won't work. So, clearly they're starting to put up this narrative of, what is it? Divide and conquer, right?
Yeah.
And I got a precept for that. If unless you got something, but
Go ahead, and then I'm gonna bring out my precept.
okay. So this is the book of Proverbs, or actually, this is the book of Matthew, 12 and 22. It says, "A house divided cannot stand." Let me see if I can find this scripture. Let's see. Is- Yeah, so this is a red letter. So it says, "But Yahushua knew their thoughts and said to them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself will not stand." And that's just the spirit of these people right now in America, man. Because they're gonna start fighting each other. They're gonna start blaming things on each other, right? No, it's these white people, it's these black people, it's these Mexican people, it's these Asian people, right? And then what's gonna happen? People are gonna start, deleting each other, start, stealing food from different stores, right? And then that's when they bring in their solution, that digital solution.
That MOTB, right? Because ultimately, man, Esau wants to get rid of it as much as Jake as possible. To try to get that original blessing back, which is the kingdom of heaven, which is ultimately in vain because it was never meant for him to begin with, right? And because he has that perpetual hatred and he wants to kill Jake. That's why the scripture says this. If I can get it out. Let's see if I have it. I think it's right here. All right, yeah, here it is. It's in the book of Amos, chapter 1, verse 11. And it says here, Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, for three transgressions of Edom, and for four, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he had, Misaki, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. But I will send a fire upon Teman, which shall devour the places of Basra. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Shem El Shai, for three transgressions of the. All right, no, okay, that's a little too far, but yeah, man, that's talking about the ICBM nuclear missiles, man. And when it says it'll send a fire on Teman and the places of Basra, there, that's basically the places where Esau dwells, man. And that's talking about what Babylon the Great, America, man. He's about to send them ICBM nuclear missiles, to destroy America, because Esau tried to is trying to eradicate Jing, man, and the ones that are still left, man, he's gonna micro C hip, in order to take that blessing back, but we know once he does that, man, they'll we that's when we know that the Lord's going to destroy him. That's why in the book of Job, let's see if I have it. That's that's yeah. Actually, yeah, I don't have it. Let me get it. That's why in the book of Job. That's why the book of Job says, when he is about all right, Job chapter 20, verse 23. When he's about to fill his belly, Yahweh shall cast the fear of his wrath upon him and rain it upon him while he's eating, right? And yeah, all right, so everything that's happening now is leading up, to that, to that great day of testing, man, and that ultimate judgment, which is gonna be that, that micro C of the MOTB and then the nukes, man. So, oh, we tell you Israelites, man, that are watching and listening, man, take heed and repent and turn back to the Lord Yahweh Bashim, Shai, because all these things are are about to happen, man. It's about to happen within a few. Like you're gonna see stuff happen within what's the date, right? The Tuesday, the 29th here in Babylon the Great here on the East Coast, man. So basically within like how many days? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, less than 5 days, man. But you gonna see stuff, stuff shifting, man. So Jake, it will behoove you, the ones that have the eyes to see and ears to hear, man. To turn back, man. And start asking for for the Lord Yahweh Bashim outside for for forgiveness, man.
It,
Repent.
it's gonna be a great time when that happens, man. Because these people, man, these scoffers and unbelievers, this whole time they thought there would be no end of the world, and then that day is gonna come, you know, the Lord willing, by next year, man. But you know how these things turn out, right? But the thing is, man, you know, they're starting to just do shit now, like with this whole EBT SNAP benefits thing. They're just starting to just do shit without any reason, and now they're trying to piss people off, right? So
And you
so
know what's funny about
so
that
that's
too?
that's what they want. They want you know what I'm saying? And soon that time of getting this word in, it's not going to be there. There's going to be a huge famine of the word. A famine of the word. It's people worried about this EBT, this food stamps famine. It's just going to be a lot more than that. You know, I actually have a precept for that. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead on.
It's the book of Isaiah 55:6. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. So, we got to still seek the Lord while we're in the green tree. Listen to elders and apostles, teachers on down from Great Millstone, and learn upon sound doctrine and, prepare, um, your house so that when that time comes, it's built upon a rock and not sand.
Hey, that's right, man. So you can be prepared. And you know what's funny? Like these people, they can still get jobs. Supposedly, they like probably get a menial job at like a fast food restaurant or retail, to help pay for the bills. But they're not gonna do that. They don't want to work hard. They want to take the easy way out, man. And so guess what, man? Like they get they're gonna face confidence.
Yeah.
That's lucky. Not confidence. I meant they're gonna face consequences, man. And, and, and
That's why the book of the Proverbs talks about the look at the ant thou sluggard, right? That's the
Because
spirit. Yeah, because these people, man, even during the time of Adam, you know, working hard was always a thing, right? I believe this just scripture about sweat thy brow, right? So but these people don't have that spirit on them, to work, to get better. No, they want everything handed to them, and ultimately that's just going to be a consequence because Daddy Esau, he's not gonna provide for you people anymore. You know, he basically gave you the big middle finger.
Yeah,
Everything free comes with a price. Yeah.
yeah,
You know, but you know, this devil, he's gonna what he's gonna do is gonna take it away from you and then, you know, give you that alternative. And what's that alternative?
the,
You
the,
know, it's that chip.
the microchip, man. Revelation 13:16 on down, man. You know, you can't buy or sell without that, and that's how you know it is a microchip, not no fucking. And these people shouldn't even be teaching, man. No, these Yah Israelites. It's not no fucking Sunday worship. It's not no. It's not the white woman. It's not JC. It's none of those, man. No. How could you buy or sell without those, man? And it's not sin itself.
Yeah, and you know, it just baffles me how people can come up with just that stupidity of a doctrine, you know, and say it with a straight face. And you know, you fucking people, you know who you are.
Yeah, John
You
Truth.
watch our videos.
John Truth, more like John False, man. Whatever you call yourself, Yaunathan, man. Shalak Rayama
And
Shifa, you
and
want your
and all
fucking.
you people, you know, saying it's okay, you know, calling these other names. You know exactly who you are. You know,
You know who you
we
are.
used to communicate with you.
We used to deal with you, but you guys are fucking scoffers, okay? Scoffing the names, scoffing the chariots, man. And sincerely, you know, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, the Lord's gonna deal with you people for going off and doing your own thing and and instructing people that heathens are gonna be saved. Fucking ridiculous.
But but back to the main point, brothers. These lazy ass jakes, man. Because again, man, two thirds of our people, as the elders say, 2/3 of our people, they ain't shit, man. But we know it's this damn devil, that that basically sets all this up, to cause Jake to act this way. But regardless, man. And this is the book of Amos, chapter 6, starting at verse 1 through 3. And it says here, "Woe to them that are at ease in Zion," right? It's talking about you Israelites, right? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, right, and you Israelite foreigners, man, you are scattered here, in Babylon, right? That rely on Zaddy Esau and his government and his government systems and food stamps, right? And it says here, and trust in the mountain of Samaria, right? And it's talking about Samaria. It's talking about modern day, modern day Babylon or modern day Egypt, which is America, which are named chief of the nations to whom the house of Israel came. Pass ye to Calneh and see he from thence you go to Hamath and the great and go down to Gath of the Philistines. Be they be they better than these kingdoms, or their border, or greater than your border? Ye that put far away the evil day and cause the seed of violence to come near, and yeah, and that's what they're doing, man. They're the same motherfuckers that put off the evil. They're thinking that, what are you talking about? This judgment ain't coming. This judgment ain't coming. And then when it comes, then that's when these motherfuckers want to crash in and be like, I'm sorry, or just like now, these motherfuckers say they're gonna resort to, going to the stores, robbing and just walking out, with the food and drinks, man. So that's basically, 2/3 of it of Israel, that trusted modern day Egypt. And they basically about to face that judgment. And the brother Sarah, he put Second Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 10. It says here, for when we are with you, this we command you, that if any of you would not work, neither should he eat. Right? And again, man, nothing seriously happened yet. All they're doing is just cutting government assistance, man. And And so you Jays can still work a little bit, to get that bread in, but the Lord put you just put on their spirits to crash out, man. So ultimately they're just gonna receive that judgment. But but anyways, we're gonna finish off this video, and then we're gonna play the next video.
Anymore. What followed was a slow, humiliating decline. In 1947, Britain tried to make the pound convertible again. The experiment lasted 6 weeks before a run on the currency forced them to reimpose controls. In 1949, the pound was devalued by 30%. In 1967, it was devalued again. Each devaluation destroyed savings, crushed confidence, and signaled to the world that Britain was no longer a first-rate power. Meanwhile, the empire disintegrated. India gained independence in 1947. Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal in 1956, and Britain's military response was a humiliating failure. Colony after colony broke away, not because they were conquered by outside forces, but because Britain could no longer afford to maintain them. By the 1970s, Britain was on the verge of becoming a failed state. Inflation hit 25%. The government went begging to the IMF for a bailout. The pound, which had once been the world's reserve currency, was now a symbol of decline. The empire that controlled a quarter of the earth had lost it all within 30 years, not through military defeat, through currency collapse and debt. The pattern once more, war debt, currency debasement, loss of reserve status, devaluation, inflation, imperial collapse. Britain proved that even the strongest empire can fall within a single generation when its currency fails. Which brings us to now, the United States, the current empire, the current reserve currency. And every single warning sign that destroyed Rome, Spain, and Britain is flashing red. Let's start with the currency. The US dollar has been the world's reserve currency since 1944. After World War II, the Bretton Woods system made the dollar the global standard. It was backed by gold, $35 per ounce. Other nations pegged their currencies to the dollar, and the dollar was as good as gold, literally. But just like Rome, just like Britain, the United States started spending more than it had. The Vietnam War, the Great Society programs, military bases around the world. By the 1960s, foreign governments noticed that America was printing more dollars than it had gold to back them. France, under Charles de Gaulle, started demanding gold in exchange for dollars. Other nations followed. The gold was leaving Fort Knox. The bluff was being called. In 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window. No more gold backing. The dollar became a pure fiat currency, just like the debased Roman denarius, just like the pound after 1931, backed by nothing but trust and the government's promise. At first, it seemed fine. The petrodollar system established in the 1970s created artificial demand for dollars because oil was priced in dollars globally. But the spending never stopped. The debt kept growing. In 1980, U.S. national debt was $900 billion. By 2000, it was $5.6 trillion. By 2020, it was $27 trillion. Today, in 2025, it's over $36 trillion. That's a 40-fold increase in 45 years. And it's accelerating. But the debt is only part of the story. Like Rome debasing the denarius, like Spain flooding the world with silver, the United States is printing money. Since 2008, the Federal Reserve has created trillions of dollars from nothing, quantitative easing they call it, necessary to stabilize the economy. During COVID, they printed over $4 trillion in 2 years, more money created than in the previous century combined. And just like every empire before, they told us it wouldn't cause inflation, that modern economics had solved the old problems, that we were different. We're not. Inflation hit 9% in 2022. Real inflation, the prices you actually pay for food, housing, healthcare, is far higher. The dollar is being debased, slowly at first. But the pattern always accelerates. And just like Britain, the United States is losing reserve currency status. In 2000, over 70% of global reserves were held in dollars. Today, it's 58% and falling. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and new members, are actively building alternatives. They're trading in local currencies, creating new payment systems, reducing dollar dependence. China and Russia are buying gold aggressively. Central banks worldwide are diversifying out of dollars. The world is preparing for the dollar to lose its dominance, just like they prepared for the pound to fall. The pattern is unmistakable. And here's the most dangerous part. The United States has the same problem Rome had. Military overextension. The U.S. maintains nearly 800 military bases in over 70 countries. The defense budget is over $800 billion annually. Wars in Iraq and Afghanistan cost over $8 trillion. The empire is expensive. And it's being funded with debt and printed money. Just like Rome couldn't pay its legions in debased coins. Just like Spain couldn't fund its military after repeated defaults. Just like Britain couldn't maintain its empire after currency collapse. The United States is running out of time. So let's identify the pattern. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every empire that has collapsed economically followed the same sequence. Not similar, identical. Stage 1, dominance. The empire is at its peak. Military strength, economic power, currency trust. Rome with the denarius, Spain with the dollar, Britain with the pound, America with the dollar. At this stage, the currency is backed by something real. Gold, silver, trust built over generations. The empire seems invincible. Stage 2, overextension. The empire expands beyond its means. More territory, more military commitments, more promises to citizens. Rome expanded across 3 continents. Spain tried to control every ocean. Britain colonized a quarter of the world. America maintains bases on every continent. The costs become unsustainable. Stage 3, deficit spending. The empire spends more than it earns. At first, this is manageable. They borrow, they issue bonds, they promise to repay, but the deficits become structural, permanent. Rome needed to pay its legions. Spain needed to fund its wars. Britain needed to finance 2 world wars. America runs trillion-dollar deficits annually, even during growth. Stage 4, currency debasement. The empire can't borrow enough, can't tax enough, so they debased the currency. Rome reduced silver in the denarius. Spain flooded the market with silver, causing inflation. Britain abandoned gold and devalued the pound twice. America left gold in 1971 and has been printing ever since. Stage 5, inflation. More currency with the same amount of real goods means prices rise. Rome saw prices increase 50-fold. Spain experienced price inflation across Europe. Britain saw 25% inflation in the 1970s. America is experiencing inflation now, despite government claims it's transitory. Stage 6, loss of confidence. The domestic population and foreign nations lose trust in the currency. Roman soldiers demanded payment in gold, not denarii. Spanish creditors refused to lend after multiple defaults. The world shifted from pounds to dollars at Bretton Woods. Today, nations are shifting away from the dollar. Stage 7, collapse. The economic system fails. The currency becomes worthless or loses its dominance. The empire can't fund its military, can't maintain control. Rome fell to Germanic tribes it could no longer pay to fight. Spain declined into irrelevance. Britain lost its empire within decades. In the US, that's the question we're living through right now. That's the pattern. 7 stages, repeated.
Yeah, and we already know what the end of the U.S. Of the U.S. or Babylon the Great is, man. And that's gonna be these ICBM thermonuclear missiles, and they're gonna talk about that a little bit in this video, but we're gonna jump to the book of Job, let's get this in the KJV. All right, it says here, Zephora says the triumph of the wicked is short, right? Let's all right, let's start at verse 1. Yeah, let's start at verse 1. I'm just gonna read on down. It says here, then answered Zophar the Namathite and said, Therefore do my thoughts cause me to answer, and for this I make haste. I have heard the check of my reproach, and the spirit of my understanding causeth me to answer. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon the earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. And yeah, man, these empires they just saw, man. Esau's many empires, within this revival of Rome, man. They within the revival of the Roman Empire, right? That deadly wound being healed, man. With Spain, Britain, and now America, they were all short lived. Why is because of unwise military spending, man. Or well, not just military spending, but because of unwise spending and inflation. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reaches unto the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen thee shall say, where is he? And that's basically what's going to happen to Esau in the kingdom, man. He's going to be a slave. He's going to serve his 1,000 years of hardcore bondage. He's going to receive a double for what he did unto the children of Israel and to the rest of the world, man. And then after that, he's going to get gathered up, pertaining to the book of Obadiah. He's going to get thrown into a pit, and and then they're just going to get burned up alive, and then that's when Esau finally serves his fucking purpose of being the devil on the earth. And he's going to get rid of, right? Verse 8, he shall fly away as a dream, and it shall not be found. Yeah, he shall be chased away as the vision of the night. The eye also which saw him shall see him no more, neither shall his place be any more to behold him, right? These devils are just going to cease to exist, man, after that after the first millennial reign, in the kingdom. His children shall seek to please the poor. His hands shall restore their goods. His that's Esau right now. Trying to give Jake those government assistance, or them talking about reparations, but they're never gonna give their fucking reparations, man. Our true reparations is gonna be once the kingdom of heaven is gonna be established on earth, man. As Yahushua said in this prayer. His bones, yeah, his bones are full of sin of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. Though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue, though he spare it and forsake it not, but keep it still within his mouth. Yet his meat in his bowels is turned. It is the gall of ass with him. He has swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. Yahweh shall cast them out of his belly, and that's what's going to happen, man. As soon as Yahweh shine, the elect are going to come down, from the fathership, man. We gonna kill off these devils, man. They're soldiers, and these heathens, man, and the rebels and 2/3 of our people. Oh, we gonna get rid of them, and then once we find their elites, hiding in their bunkers, in the mountains and the cliffs, man, we can immediately put them in the chains, man. And then we gotta basically take the riches, man. And then establish the kingdom of heaven. Job chapter 20 verse 16. He shall suck the poison of acid, as the viper's tongue shall slay him. He shall not see the rivers, the floods, the books of honey and butter. That which he labored for, here shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein. Yeah, man. He's not gonna, he's not enjoying his goods basically. Yeah, as of right now, and once we get to the kingdom, man, that's then that's when the restoration of Israel is gonna come, man. Man, this devil, man, he's gonna surrender all the riches that he has to, to the nation of Israel. Because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away an house which he build not. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save that of which he desired. There shall none of his meat be left. Therefore shall no man look for his goods. And in the fullness of his sufficiency he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall be upon him. When he is about to fill his belly, a howl shall cast a fear of his wrath upon him, and shall rain upon him while he's eating. Right, and that's when the Lord's gonna send the nukes, when he's about to implement that, implement his his microchip, man. And as of right now, Esau might have all the wealth, but he's not really taking any pleasure in his goods. Why? Because he's too busy trying to oppress Jake, man. And his own people are suffering because of it. So we're gonna play this next video. They're well, what they're gonna explain is they're basically gonna do they're basically they're basically gonna explain, basically what's gonna go down, from Trump's, from his trade wars with, with Russia and China, and and his wars in Iran. Because in this video, Nero, man, Trump, he like later on in the video, he's basically gonna talk about, about him, threatening these other nations with nukes, but but America, they're basically not in a position to threaten anyone. Is because Babylon, they just simply they don't have the technological capabilities, as say, China and Russia. So we're just gonna let the video play. Again, fair use. You have the copyright disclaimer right here. You see it. We've already stated in the beginning of the video. So we're just gonna play only a portion of this video.
Yeah, and then there's this question, Alina, of the trade war. The United States, Donald Trump is talking to Xi Jinping. He is essentially threatening even higher tariffs on China should it leverage its rare earths, should it continue to stop buying soybeans from the United States, on and on and on, should China continue its export controls and regulations. And then there's exactly what KJ said, this fact that Venezuela is very much a part of now what is increasingly a China-led world economic order. How is it that Trump then, how do you see the Trump administration's kind of bandying about and flailing about as a byproduct of a very difficult and challenging dynamic facing the United States empire?
So the United States is facing, the best way to put it, it's the ultimate fall, or rather consequences of the contradictions of its sort of capitalist structures. Up until, obviously, up to World War, II, and a little after World War II, obviously the United States was an industrial powerhouse of its own. But obviously the rules of economics dictate that at a certain particular point, unless you're willing to basically change the modus, sort of the way in which you sort of function, your economic system, and therefore create a more centralized planning system that will allow for a state to control its industries rather than being completely profit driven. Eventually, all avenues of profit creation will eventually diminish, as essentially the constant need to create will outpass all forms of demand, therefore reducing the profit, which is why globalization and sort of the neoliberal order took place in the 80s with Reagan and Thatcher in the UK, which saw like a new rising, the new neoliberal order that expanded and exported all of its production capacity abroad, as I've said earlier. And in a way to kind of rectify its own contradictions within the United States, it turned into this financial capitalist hub, relying as well on the dollar itself to be able to obviously fund itself. It's become a speculative bubble of an economy that is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. And this is primarily because, as I've said, it's a profit-driven economy.
Yes, yes, yes. So you heard that right there. America is, the Babylon the Great is nothing but a but a profit driven economy, right? And the reason why they sold initially why they sold their factories to China is because they're gonna produce more things than they could profit, right? All right, so let's play it back again.
Up to World War, II, and a little after World War II, obviously the United States was an industrial powerhouse of its own. But obviously, the rules of economics dictate that at a certain particular point, unless you're willing to basically change the modus, sort of the way in which you sort of function, your economic system, and therefore create a more centralized planning system that will allow for a state to control its industries rather than being completely profit driven, eventually all avenues of profit creation will eventually diminish, as essentially the constant need to create will outpass all forms of demand, therefore reducing the profit, which is why globalization and sort of the neoliberal order took place in the 80s with Reagan and Thatcher in the UK, which saw like a new rising, the new neoliberal order that expanded and exported all of its production capacity abroad, as I've said earlier. And in a way to kind of rectify its own contradictions within the United States, it turned into this financial capitalist hub, relying as well on the dollar itself to be able to obviously fund itself. It's become a speculative bubble of an economy that is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. And this is primarily because, as I've said, it's a profit-driven economy. As it currently stands, the United States no longer has the kind of capacity to threaten anybody. The only thing, and I think it was the Responsible Statescraft that actually even published a piece in the last week stating that there is really no way for the United States to be able to even sustain wars against Venezuela, wars against Russia, wars against Iran, and most definitely not with China. And I would actually even try to remind people of a report that came out from the CSIS in 2023 that even said, and this was before the wars in West Asia, before October 7th had actually taken place. And even at that point, the report had found that the United States would not be able to militarily last more than 1 week against a Taiwan Strait war with China. And this is very.
So you heard that right. So America could not last like not even a week in a battle for Taiwan against China. With the U.S. With the U.S. trying to maintain control. For the U.S. trying to maintain its control over Taiwan, it's not going to last a war with China for not even a week, man. And so, man, so if America can't even last within a week, so I'm gonna say this again. So if Babylon the Great, America, if they can't even last a week fighting China. What does that mean for America? Trying to fight the entire world, including itself, man. What does that mean for Babylon the Great? In this third world war, trying to fight everyone, including their own citizens.
Finished through.
It's over for Babylon, man. They have nothing. There's nothing they could do. So, and them rolling out that MOTB, that micro CF, that's only gonna speed up the fucking process, man. Man, so man, that's why the scripture says, man, as soon as he's about to fill his belly, as soon as when he's about to roll out with that that RFID micro see it, man, that charagma, man, man, that's when the Lord's gonna cast his fury, man. That's when he's gonna try and fight these other nations, right? He's gonna ultimately fail, and then he's gonna have nothing but the threat of nuclear war and send his nukes. But as soon as he does that, these other nations, what we all watching me outside, he's gonna put the spirit on them to to fire all their nukes at Babylon, man, and then that's it, man. That's the kingdom of heaven. That's when the elect are gonna get beaten up in the Father's ship. America's gonna get destroyed, and the kingdom of heaven is gonna be established on earth, man, as it is on heaven, as it says in the Lord's prayer, man. The Lord Yahweh Shai, man. And so yeah, so it's over for Babylon. It's like this is the end, man. This is the foreseeable end for America. There is literally no way that they can win this at all. They're through. Period. I'm gonna let her continue, and then we're gonna get out some closing precepts.
Very telling. And in fact, the CSI report actually concluded that the war will not be won through military means, but actually through the country's industrial capacity and base, of which the United States does not have that capability anymore. And so now, all the kind of speculative and financial bubble of an economy that the United States has created in order to sustain itself is reaching a boiling point where effectively it has to make a decision. Either it will stop its sort of imperialist ambitions abroad and start to look at reindustrializing its own economy and investing back into its own economy in order to sort of at least safeguard what it can and save itself. But that would ultimately therefore mean that it would no longer be the world's global reserve currency, because let's remember, in economics, there's something called the Triffin dilemma, which essentially states that the United States, given the fact that it's the world's global reserve currency, it has to act like the world's consumer, because it has to import everything. It has to become, it has to maintain that sort of status in order to be able to produce and be able to pump enough dollars into the global economy in order to facilitate the fact that the dollar is the global reserve currency. And so if tomorrow the United States was to look at reindustrializing and sort of actually focusing on, making America great again, which is kind of the narrative that Trump was selling to his support base, then that would ultimately mean that the United States will lose its so-called superpower status. It would no longer be the world's global reserve currency, and it would no longer be a state that would be funded by, foreign countries buying its own capital assets, which is the means by which the United States has been able to sustain itself. So now the state the United States is at is that it's deindustrialized. It doesn't have the industrial base or capacity to be able to confront the adversaries that it has. It wasn't even able to actually accomplish anything against, a small scale operation against Yemen, where it used about, I think 80 Tomahawk missiles, and it produces between 55 and 90 per year, because it doesn't have the industrial capacity, and it also doesn't have the resources of which China is obviously has the monopoly over, as we discussed earlier with regards to its rare earth resources. So the United States simply cannot. There is no means by which it can actually go into war with even with Venezuela. The chances of success, even in Venezuela, but especially against Iran, especially and let's not even talk about Russia or China. It's more so going to stretch itself thin, and eventually, at some particular point, it's going to erupt. The death bubble that the United States is in will erupt, and it will eventually lead to political and economic chaos within the imperial core, unless, as I said, it was to change trajectory, which unfortunately the ruling classes in corporate America is not willing to do, because if it was to do that, it would see a huge reduction in its profit-making capabilities, and a lot of these financial sort of powerhouses, and financial institutions would become effectively, would probably even kind of, go bankrupt. They would no longer be functioning as institutions anymore. So this is sort of the dilemma of the United States, and why it's a lot of these ambitions that it has abroad just simply are not economically, politically, or even militarily feasible.
All right, so and we're just gonna stop it right there, man. So basically, as we said, man, it's pretty much fucking over for Babylon, man. They don't have they don't have those resources or those refineries or the factories, to produce the weapons that they need to launch a full global assault on these nations. And on top of that, right, as the rhetoric that that Nero 47 or Trump pushes out, right, making America great, by reindustrializing America, it's like in order for them to do that, they would need to reinvest the country, and if they were to do that, right, it would mean that they would have to stop being a consumer based economy. And, economy, and they basically need to be a consumer based economy for for them to maintain for them to maintain to be the world's reserve currency, which they're not going to allow any other country to be a world reserve currency. So what they're going to do, right, is they're going to default on their debt. Roll out the MOTB system, which is what they've been playing out, and basically make a lot of people suffer, and of course they're going to start here in America first, and then spread across the whole world, man. The whole world is gonna go through that testing, because because every country around the world is anticipating the United States dollar to collapse to implement that that might that micro see it, right, but because this devil, right, because this motherfucker so greedy, and because he doesn't want anyone else to take over as another world reserve currency, man. This motherfucker, man. He's gonna crash out, man, and try to go to war with everyone. And when he does that, and when he's gonna do that, man, he's gonna fucking lose, man. And then that's when these missiles are gonna come flying off, man. And the Lord's spear is gonna be within these missiles, man. And that's when Babylon's gonna get fucking destroyed, man. So. So this is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10, verse 16. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child, and thy princes eat in the morning. Meaning what? They're selfish. They only care for themselves. They only care about making profit. And instead of making people's lives better, man. And this is an unprofitable and destructive kingdom, man. It's literally the cancer of the earth. Right, verse 17. Blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is a son of nobles, and thy princes eat in due season for strength, and not for drunkenness. Right. Those nobles, man. They're gonna be the Israelites, is because they're gonna have the law, statutes, commandments, and they're gonna know how to run this earth in righteousness, man. People are gonna, in the kingdom, man. People are gonna understand, how to properly live, how to build their homes, how to run their families. The men and women are gonna know their proper roles. They're gonna know how to take care of animals, how to plant, when to plant. And and when to change lands, according to the land Sabbath, man, and much more, man. We can see more blessings and miracles, once we get to the kingdom, man. It's gonna be beautiful. All right, Proverbs chapter 14, verse 28. Let's read the KJV version first. And the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in the want of people is the destruction of the prince, right? Let's read that. Let's read that in the let's read the New American Standard. It says here, in the multitude of people is in the king's glory, but in the sanctity, but the scarcity of people is a prince's ruin. Let's see. Here it is. Let's see. Berean Standard Bible. A large population is a king's splendor, but the lack of subjects is a prince's ruin, right? So basically, there's no glory in the kingdom, man. There's no glory in the king, emperor, ruler, man. If they don't have the support of their people, man, or if they're gonna kill off their people, man, and what's that? That's basically gonna lead to a failed state, man. And Babylon the Great is ultimately gonna be that ultimate failed state, man, of what not to be, man. And so, so with that, man, we're just gonna end off the lesson right there. Hope this lesson's been edifying. To you Akim and if you Akwak, that are listening. And with that, we like to say, call Halayim La, Abanawa, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Ruka Kadash. All right, double honors and respect to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and taught us this truth. I would also like to say peace and salutations to the Lord's elect, the hopeful elect in the 1/3, his brother Salah.
Brock.
And to that, we like to say shalom. Until next time.
Yeshua.